Alright, hello there. So this is going to be a tutorial on what exactly GitHub Desktop is and how do we use it. So GitHub Desktop is a version control system. What that means in plain English is as you save files, GitHub or Git will save each save file. So as we go along, you can always go back to a previous save file and continue on from there. In terms of computer, this is kind of like a computer backup. So we are backing up our project. Just in case you completely break everything, you can go back. If you want to test out a change, you can create a different branch and then continue on from there. So it is kind of like a tree. Now let me show you a little bit first. So we can go to the history and we see the initial commit. And this was when I first created the repository. All it had were the attributes, the ignore, and the readme. And I can try to explain these a little bit more. So the readme is just a thing that people will see when they enter the GitHub repository on github.com. And you use it to give a summary of what exactly is in the project, what is the purpose of the project, anything that you want a first-time viewer to see, or if you want to remind yourself about something. The git ignore will ignore all of the files that you have here, which means the folder library, temp, obj, build, builds, logs, and user settings will be ignored or not uploaded to GitHub. Another explanation, GitHub uses a program called Git. Git is the version control system, and GitHub is the online version of Git. Now, then I created a second commit. I called this my initial commit with the Unity project and assets. And in this is the current commit. I added the whole Unity project. It looks like it's going to take a moment to load, if it does at all. So if I ever want to undo changes, I can go right-click on this and I can say that I want to revert the changes. Okay, now let's make a few changes to kind of explain what happens here, and I'll even make another branch to explain that. Let's start with the branches. So anytime you want to do work on the project, it is highly recommended that you go to a different branch. So you can click this current branch up here and you see the check mark next to the branch that you are currently looking at. Currently we only have the main branch. If I want to add a new branch, I can click create new branch, and then I need to type in a descriptive name. So for this descriptive name, I want to call it the GitHub Desktop Demo. And I will press enter or click the create branch, and we see it doing some loading as it's actually going through and creating this branch. And what it does is it copies all of the files from the branch that you're looking at. And if we look, now we have the main branch, which is the default one, and then we have the GitHub Desktop Demo branch. Also, because I have created content that is not available on GitHub, that means only I can see it and no one else with access to this GitHub can see it. However, if I click Publish Branch, then everyone will be able to see this. This is also true when you make a change. So for now, I will click Publish Branch, and it will push it to the origin. Origin is like a fancy way of talking about the GitHub repository. It's adding it to the repository, and it really just takes a moment. Now, there we go. I can also fetch the origin if I want to see if any changes have been made. So if you don't know if there have been changes made, you can always click Fetch Origin, and it will go and look and see, hey, have any changes been made by anyone outside of this desktop or on the GitHub website itself. If I want to see the files, I can click Show in Explorer, and then it opens up this Explorer. We can see right away the Git folder where all of the Git files are kind of saved and compressed. You might need to click View and then show the hidden items to see this, by the way. Now, we also see the Git attributes and Git ignore and the README markdown file. Okay, so let me go in, and I can go anywhere in here. Maybe I'll go to the assets, and I will right click in the assets, and I will create a new text document. I will call this my GitHub Desktop demo.txt. Now, right away after I've created that, if I go back to GitHub, we see that I have one changed file. The GitHub demo desktop.txt is the changed file, and we see that it's an empty file. So if I go back here and let me open the text file, and I will add some text like hello world, and then I will save it, and I will close it and go back, and it will need a moment to refresh, and now we see that I have added one line. It's added because it is green. We also see this little red part showing that there is no new line at the end of the file, which really doesn't matter. It's just a programming thing. Now, if I want to add this update to GitHub, then I need to create a commit. So first I need to create a commit like this. But first I need to say what exactly is this doing. Automatically it's saying that we can fill this out with create GitHub Desktop demo.txt, which is really what it is doing. I can also add a description to further describe what I'm doing, and you'll be able to see that too. So, a file used to demonstrate the use of GitHub Desktop. And then I can say commit, and it shows that it is committing, and soon we will see the fetch origin update with a push to origin. There we go. Now it says push origin. I am one commit above the GitHub Desktop demo that everyone else can see. So no one else can see that new file that I just showed until I click push origin. And this makes it online and available for everyone else. So make sure if you put out updates that you are pushing it to the origin, and make sure that you are on the branch that you want. Because if you do not push it, then no one else can see it. I can't see it. And if you're on the wrong branch, then you might show stuff that you don't want, or you might change things that shouldn't be changed. For example, the Unity scenes are very particular, and they have a very odd way of saving the location of files and their hierarchy and all of the different data inside of a scene, and it can be very confusing to compare changes to a scene in GitHub. So the best thing to do would be to create a separate branch and make sure you're not using the scene names that are being edited by other people, because when you merge two scenes they will often not come out the same. But what we can do is we can say, when we create a scene, we would say scene or a descriptive scene. So we can say like main menu scene, and then maybe even add the branch name or the name of the person who created it. So I would say main menu scene underscore John. Then when we are finally ready to put everything into the main branch, we would take those scenes and then merge them in Unity and not merge them in GitHub. Okay, so now if I go to my history, we see that I have the initial commit, and then I created the GitHub Desktop demo text. If I go back, and what if I want to change this again? So instead of hello, if I say goodbye world, and then I save it, that's a bit dark, and then I close it, and if I go back to my GitHub Desktop, it will tell me that I have one changed file, and we can see that the red means I removed it. So I removed hello world and I added goodbye world. To help us out even more, it's highlighted the exact change, and it tells us the line number of what was changed. So I changed the hello by removing it, and I added goodbye. Now I can commit this, and you notice that it says update instead of create, because now we already have the GitHub demo text. I am just updating it instead of actually creating it. So I'm clicking commit, which is going to commit these changes. It's going to save these changes, but only locally. No one else can see these changes, remember, until I click the push origin. Now, after this is done, we can see one of the great things about GitHub, because in the folder we see, yes, I do have the GitHub Desktop demo text here. I'm seeing it right here. It's very obvious that it's there. But if I switch back to the main branch, so I leave the GitHub Desktop demo branch to go back to the main branch, and I look back at my files, it's now gone. So none of the changes that we make in a branch shows up in another branch. So it copies that branch that you are copying, and anything that you do to it does not break anything else. Now you might say, what if I do some meaningful work? How do we combine those two? Well, we go back to our branch and we say choose a branch to merge into main, and then we click on the branch that we want, and it says this will merge two commits from GitHub Desktop Demo into main. What are those two commits, you might wonder? Well, the first commit was when I created the GitHub Desktop Demo text file with the hello world inside of it, and the second commit was when I updated the GitHub Desktop Demo text file with goodbye world. So now we can see that I'm still on the main branch. There is still no text document here, and if I click create a merge commit, it will now combine those two files, and this is where you will have trouble if you are if you are changing multiple, or if you are trying to merge the Unity scenes, because Unity scenes do not merge very well. And that's why we will need to have unique names for our scene. Like I said, just use your name appended to the end of it, and make sure that no one else changes the scene with your name on it. If you want to change a scene that someone's made with their name on it, then merge it to a branch that you make, because you don't just merge to main, you can create another branch and merge it with a GitHub Desktop demo and all of that. Okay, so of course I can push it to origin, but I don't want it. I think to myself, wait, do I really want this GitHub Desktop demo text? And no, I don't. I don't want that. So let me go, and I want to click undo the commit. Now if I go back, and there we go, I see the file. I have undone the commit of changing it from hello world to goodbye world. But we see in the file it's still there, but look, the commit shows that I've still made the change. So it still notices that the change is there, but it's not committed. So if I push it to the origin now, the only thing it will push is the hello world commit. But I don't even want that, so I'm going to undo that commit as well. Now I see that I have the change there, but instead of adding hello world, it now thinks that I'm just adding goodbye world, because the commit that I am at right now, the initial commit with Unity project and assets, does not contain the GitHub Desktop demo text commit. So this would be creating it again. But of course I do not want that, so I will click delete on it and go back here, and we'll see that this will refresh to say that there are 0 changed files. So none of the changes that I've made have actually made changes. Now, something else that we can do is we can delete a branch. So if I go to, I would need to wait for this to finish swapping over, and I shouldn't have switched over, but it's good to see this, because I just undid all of those changes, I just deleted stuff, but when I go back to the GitHub Desktop demo, we still see the text, and it should say goodbye world, just like that. So that's the power of branches, is you can make many changes that don't affect other branches, and this is great for multiple people working simultaneously, and this is also great for telling where your changes have been at. Okay, now I want to go to branch. Okay. Looks like I might need to go to the GitHub Desktop demo branch in order to delete it. And we really shouldn't be deleting branches unless you make the branch and you're like, no, I really don't want this. Then you can go and delete it. Or if you realize that you misnamed a branch, you can rename it. There are, anything that you think you can do that's an intelligent action to do, then you can generally do it. So now I deleted the branch, and if I go back, there's no branch here. So that is a quick demo on how to use the GitHub repository. It's very powerful like that, and very useful. So thank you for watching, and I hope that this has been helpful. Have a great day.